Hello everybody. Today's video is a little bit different than our usual ones. You can tell by where I am and by Fion's absence. This is because I wanted to talk to you about the book that I mentioned in yesterday's article. And the provisional title of that, I can't give you a definitive one until we start printing it, and it's nowhere near finished writing, is People Before Tech, the Importance of Psychological Safety and Teams in the Digital Age. And most obviously, we've started talking about this book before, and preparing this book and writing this book and thinking about the things we want to put into it before the world changed. So we now have to rethink some bits, but not essentially. And I think this is the thing I really wanted to point out today, is that despite the fact that the world has dramatically changed in the last few months, what hasn't changed is how we still have to do the work on what I call the human debt, which is the equivalent in HR terms, if you wish, or in people terms, of the technical debt, meaning that that we acquire when we make systems or we write code that we know has flaws in it, or we know has issues to be resolved, or needs to be cleaned up, or restructured, or rethought of. And that is pretty much a parallel to what is happening in terms of humans in the workplace, where enterprise everywhere have a huge debt to look at soft skills, to understand emotional intelligence, and restructure their approach towards humans, putting them first in truth and not only in saying. So to give you a couple of examples of the things that we're going to be putting in a book, and I'm reading from my Trello board, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a Trello board. Of course, you should not attempt to do anything in life unless it's at least a little bit agile, and this is how the book will be agile. I did this on my first book as well, but maybe not quite as diligently. So anyways, back to the chapters. So some of the chapters or the part of the book are work today, work tomorrow, because we have to discuss how this is going to change. We then go on talking about not being able to have the wow without the what, which is something I've been saying for a few years now, which is essentially you can't have a new way of working without having a new way of thinking. Then we have a part about searching for the perfect team, talking about the fact that it's such a tragedy that teams as a concept have pretty much vanished. And we go back towards what has happened to the idea of team, what is it that we can do to there's more of it and better of it. And then there's a part that's most dear to my heart, which is putting a number on psychological safety and emotional intelligence. This is the part that's going to ideally, hopefully, also contain a polemic that will come from the juxtaposition of ideas between what I believe and what Professor Dr. Amy Edmondson, who came up with the idea of psychological safety, or rather who put the idea of psychological safety on the map, believes. And that isn't because we fundamentally disagree, but it is because we have an academic versus business approach to a degree, and we'd like to explore that dynamic with you guys, in front of you guys, in a chapter or a conversation within the book. Another part is focusing on soft skills. It's called Soft Skills Are Hard. We need to talk about the importance of EQ and how that plays into the dynamic of creating better workplaces. There's, of course, a part called What Happens Next. But before it, and what has changed since the outbreak, there's going to be a chapter called Remote and Flexible Working and the 2020 Pandemic, because ideally this book won't last for 5 minutes, but longer than that. So obviously we can't just ignore this monumental moment of shift. But as I said, by the same token, the shift in itself is not the only thing that has a bearing on how we continue with humans. If anything, said this over and over again, it's a welcome catalyst that we talk about these issues. If I look at my newsfeed, topics of importance on humans have jumped from a couple of mentions a day, and even mentions of psychological safety in my, I keep saying this, in my Google alerts have went from a few a day that they were before the pandemic to tens a day, which means that we are finally starting to pay attention to things that count. This is an amazing moment to make those changes that will carry us through once the world is safer. It's probably never going to be the way it was, but it will be safer, it will be happier, it will be a combination between what we're doing now and what we used to do before. But whatever it is that we arrive to, it has to be with the idea of team in the center of it, and with the idea of psychological safety surrounding it. So that's what's going to be in the book. Obviously, I'll keep telling you guys about it for a long time. It's not going to come out, of course, until next year at some point. But I just wanted to kind of throw it out there and ask you to send me anything you can think of that I should be reading, that I should be researching. And also to put out an open call for anyone who wants to get involved in helping us prove this number. We have 2 companies we're going to be attempting to bring towards the book, who will be giving us a couple of teams that we will be testing, A/B testing, both teams agile, both teams writing software, and then we will see what happens when one of them is actively working on improving their psychological safety. Very helpful for the results of that research. If you want to get involved and you think you're fast enough to give us a couple of teams in time, meaning in the next few weeks, and those teams are, kind of structured enough and solid enough from a people perspective, and they're agile and potentially writing codes or doing some other type of project together, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If not, just get in touch and give me ideas. What am I missing? What should I be putting in the book? What would you like to read? Thanks a lot for listening to me, and have a safe, calm, stable, and successful week ahead. Bye.